Does your mind ever feel like a television left on? That constant hum, replaying old conversations and worrying about the future, never truly goes away. Even at night, your brain won't quit, dissecting every moment. It's exhausting and isolating, making you feel trapped behind your own thoughts, longing for peace. Overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's your brain's way of trying to protect you from pain, an ancient survival strategy that's still active today. When your mind spirals, it's not weakness. It's your brain doing its job, just a little too well for the modern world. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You're the one observing a mind trying to keep you safe. Overthinking is just a protective mechanism. Instead of fighting your mind, gently guide it toward clarity and action. Freedom comes from letting go of control, not clinging to it. With awareness, you can break the cycle and reclaim your peace. Our brains evolved to keep us alive, not happy, constantly scanning for threats, just like our ancestors on the plains. Today, that ancient wiring still runs the show, flagging work stress or social anxiety as if they're life or death dangers. Overthinking is simply your survival brain using an old blueprint in a modern world. Deep in your brain sits the amygdala, your personal smoke detector. It constantly scans for danger, sounding the alarm at the slightest hint of threat. Like a smoke detector that mistakes harmless smoke for fire, your amygdala often triggers anxiety over everyday worries. This cycle can trap you in overthinking, all thanks to your brain's well-meaning but jumpy alarm system. The survival brain tries to protect us by overthinking, rehearsing every outcome to avoid pain. But this protection can become a prison, built from what-ifs and should-haves. The world shrinks, and life feels lonely and limited. The real prison isn't the world, it's the overthinking itself. Freedom comes not from eliminating threats, but from changing your relationship with your mind. The survival brain tries to keep us safe, but overthinking comes at a high cost. It drains our energy, fuels anxiety, and robs us of joy and opportunity. The safety it promises is an illusion. Real danger lies in letting it steal our present and limit our future. Overthinking is a desperate search for certainty in a world that offers none. Your mind craves guarantees, but life is unpredictable. The more you chase certainty, the more anxious you feel. Freedom comes not from finding all the answers, but from becoming comfortable with not having them. Overthinking feels productive, but it hijacks your problem-solving brain, trapping you in endless loops over abstract fears. Unlike fixing a leaky tap, rumination never leads to action, just mental exhaustion. Ask yourself, is this thought leading to a solution or just taking me in circles? Worry often disguises itself as care. We think the more we worry, the more we love. But worry is passive and self-focused, keeping us trapped in anxiety. True care is active and present, listening, supporting, and engaging with those we love. The greatest gift is your calm, present self, not one exhausted by fear. Overthinking doesn't soothe anxiety, it amplifies it. A small worry can spiral into a raging inferno, making you live through imagined disasters. The more you analyze, the more real and powerful anxiety feels. The solution isn't more thinking, but learning to step outside the thought stream, a skill we'll explore soon. Overthinking tricks you into believing you're in control, gripping the reins of your mind to steer life's outcomes. But true freedom comes from loosening that grip, realizing you're not the driver, but the awareness behind your thoughts. Letting go isn't giving up. It's reclaiming your energy to focus on what you can actually influence, your actions, your choices, right now. When overthinking strikes, pause and ask, what fear am I trying to manage through thinking? This question shifts you from being lost in thoughts to becoming curious about what's really driving them. Naming the fear brings it into the light, stripping it of its power. This simple question is your first tool for reclaiming your mind. After naming your fear, do nothing. Just pause. Take a slow, conscious breath. This calms your body and creates space between you and your thoughts. The pause is your emergency brake, breaking the cycle of worry. In that stillness, you see thoughts as just thoughts, not reality. With practice, this pause becomes your new habit and the birthplace of freedom. Worry is frantic and exhausting. Awareness is calm and observant. Awareness lets you notice thoughts without being swept away. When you catch yourself worrying, gently shift to awareness. Notice sensations, sounds, and your breath. Each time you do, you weaken worry's grip and strengthen your conscious presence. Your mind wanders, but your body is always present. When overthinking hits, focus on your feet, your breath, or the feeling of your body in the chair. This grounds you in the present, interrupting the cycle of anxious thoughts. The body becomes your anchor, reminding you that you are safe right now. From this stable place, you can face challenges with clarity. Awareness isn't about passivity, it's the gateway to wise action. Once calm, you can see the next step clearly and act intentionally, not reactively. Even small actions restore your sense of agency and build self-trust. This is how you break the cycle of overthinking. Pause, become aware, and move forward with purpose. When thoughts swirl in your mind, writing them down brings order and calm. Journaling is a safe space to pour out your fears, challenge worries, and shift from anxiety to empowered problem-solving. Make it a daily habit, like mental hygiene. Over time, your journal becomes a record of resilience and self-compassion. This strategy might sound counterintuitive at first, but it can be incredibly effective for chronic overthinkers. Instead of allowing worry to interrupt you and steal your attention throughout the entire day, you are going to give it a designated appointment. You create a worry period, a specific limited block of time, perhaps 15 or 20 minutes each day, where you are allowed to worry as much as you want. You can schedule it for 4:30 in the afternoon, for example. The rule is simple. Outside of this scheduled time, you must postpone any worrying thoughts that arise. When an anxious thought pops into your head at 10 in the morning, you don't fight it or get angry at it. You simply acknowledge it and say to yourself, "That's a good worry. I'm going to add it to my list and think about it properly at 4:30. You can even jot it down on a piece of paper or in a note on your phone. This act of postponing does two things. First, it validates the thought without letting it take over, which calms the initial alarm from your amygdala. Second, it breaks the cycle of immediate, reactive rumination and puts you back in control of your focus and your time. During your scheduled worry period, you must fully commit. Sit down and actively engage with the worries on your list. Let your mind spin, catastrophize, and analyze to its heart's content, but only for the allotted time. When the timer goes off, you must stop. You consciously make the decision to table any unresolved worries until your next scheduled session. This trains your brain to understand that there is a time and a place for worry, and it is not all day, every day. It contains the chaos within a defined boundary, preventing it from spilling over and contaminating your entire life. What you'll often find is that by the time your scheduled worry appointment arrives, many of the concerns that seemed so urgent earlier in the day have lost their emotional charge. Some may even seem trivial or have resolved themselves. This practice teaches you a profound lesson. Most worries are not as urgent as they feel. By creating this structured container, you learn to differentiate between productive problem-solving and useless rumination. You reclaim vast amounts of mental energy and prove to yourself that you, not your anxiety, are the one who sets the agenda for your mind. Mindfulness is often misunderstood as trying to empty your mind or stop all thoughts, which is an impossible task that only leads to frustration. A more practical and accessible approach is the notice and name technique. This is a simple, active form of mindfulness that you can do anywhere, at any time, without closing your eyes or sitting in a special posture. The goal is not to eliminate thoughts, but to change your relationship with them by observing them with a bit of distance and neutrality. It's about moving from being inside the thought to being the one who sees the thought. The practice involves 2 simple steps. First, you notice when you are lost in thought. This is the moment of awareness, the aha moment when you realize your mind has been spinning on a particular worry. It could be a thought about work, a relationship, or the future. The moment you notice is a small victory in itself. You have just woken up from the trance of overthinking. This is the crucial first step where you step back from the storyline and become the observer of your own mental activity, creating that vital sliver of space we talked about earlier. The second step is to silently and non-judgmentally name what you are noticing. You simply label the experience. For example, you might say to yourself, that's worry, or there's planning, or that's judging. You can also label feelings. This is anxiety, or I'm feeling fear. The key is to use simple, neutral labels. You are not saying, this is a stupid thought or I shouldn't be worrying. You are just categorizing the mental event like a scientist observing data. This act of naming helps to depersonalize the thought, seeing it as a temporary mental event rather than a fundamental truth about you or reality. By repeatedly practicing notice and name, you begin to see the patterns of your mind more clearly. You'll start to recognize your go-to worry themes and the specific triggers that set them off. This practice demystifies the process of overthinking, turning it from a big, scary monster into a series of predictable, observable mental habits. Each time you notice and name a thought, you are loosening its grip on you. You are training your brain to see that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not commands, and they are not you. You are the calm, steady awareness that notices them all. For many overthinkers, the internal monologue is not just anxious, it is also harshly critical. When you make a mistake, you might call yourself an idiot. When you feel anxious about a social event, you might tell yourself to just get over it. This inner critic acts like a drill sergeant, believing that being tough on yourself is the key to improvement and safety. In reality, this harsh self-talk only pours fuel on the fire of anxiety. It activates your brain's threat system just as much as an external criticism would, making you feel more ashamed, isolated, and fearful. The antidote to this inner critic is compassionate self-talk. This doesn't mean indulging in empty platitudes or ignoring your flaws. It means choosing to speak to yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and support that you would offer to a good friend who was going through a similar struggle. It involves acknowledging your pain and validating your feelings rather than judging or dismissing them. It's about shifting your inner voice from that of a harsh critic to that of a supportive and encouraging coach who wants the best for you. When you catch yourself in a loop of self-criticism, you can pause and consciously choose a different response. You might say something to yourself like, "This is really hard right now, and it's okay to feel this way," or, "You're feeling scared, and that makes sense. Let's figure this out together." You can also remind yourself of your inherent worth, separate from your performance or others' opinions. Even if I fail at this, I am still a worthy person. This compassionate language soothes your nervous system, reduces feelings of shame, and creates a sense of inner safety that is essential for resilience. Cultivating this new voice takes time and deliberate practice. Your inner critic has likely had years of practice, so it won't disappear overnight. Start by simply noticing its tone. Then, introduce the compassionate alternative. One powerful exercise is to think about what you would say to a child or a beloved friend in your situation, and then direct those same words inward. This isn't about being weak, it's about being wise. Self-compassion provides the emotional foundation you need to face challenges, learn from mistakes, and navigate the uncertainties of life without tearing yourself down in the process. Overthinking thrives on inertia. The more you sit and think, the more overwhelming the situation seems, and the less likely you are to act. This creates a vicious cycle of paralysis and anxiety. One of the most powerful ways to break this cycle is to inject a small, manageable dose of action. The 2-minute rule, popularized by author James Clear, is a brilliant strategy for this. The rule is simple. If a task or action takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately instead of thinking about it or putting it off. This rule is incredibly effective for the small, everyday tasks that can clog our mental bandwidth. Instead of letting the thought "I need to reply to that email" circle in your head for an hour, you just take 2 minutes and do it. Instead of worrying about the pile of dishes in the sink, you take 2 minutes and wash a few of them. This isn't about completing the entire overwhelming project, it's about getting started. The momentum created by these small, decisive actions is a powerful antidote to the feeling of being stuck. It proves to your brain that you are capable and in control. For larger, more daunting tasks that trigger overthinking, like starting a big project or having a difficult conversation, you can adapt the rule. Ask yourself, what is a 2-minute version of this task that I can do right now? You can't finish the entire project in 2 minutes, but you can open a document and write the title. You can't have the whole conversation, but you can take 2 minutes to text the person and ask when would be a good time to talk. This small step lowers the barrier to entry so much that it becomes harder to say no than to say yes. It bypasses the brain's resistance and gets you moving. This strategy works because it shifts your focus from the overwhelming endpoint to a simple, achievable starting point. Every time you complete a 2-minute action, you get a small hit of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which builds a positive feedback loop. Action creates clarity and confidence, which in turn reduces the need to overthink. You are no longer just a thinker, you are a doer. By consistently taking these tiny steps, you build trust in your ability to handle things, proving that you can move from the prison of your thoughts into the freedom of meaningful, real-world action. You are not broken. Overthinking is not a flaw, it's a deeply human trait. A mind trying to protect you. See your thoughts with compassion, not judgment. You are ready to evolve, to move beyond survival and truly thrive. The pursuit of perfection and certainty fuels overthinking. But life is messy and unpredictable. True freedom comes from embracing imperfection and uncertainty. Letting go takes courage, but it frees your energy for what matters: living, loving, and growing. Throughout this essay, we have moved from understanding the why behind overthinking to exploring the how of breaking free. You are now equipped with a powerful new toolkit, designed not to wage war on your thoughts, but to build a more peaceful and empowered relationship with your mind. These are not quick fixes, but skills to be cultivated over time. They represent a fundamental shift from a life lived in survival mode to one dedicated to thriving. Let's briefly revisit these tools, reminding ourselves of the power they hold to reshape our inner world and, by extension, our outer lives. First, We learned the power of compassionate inquiry with the question, what fear am I trying to manage through thinking? This question acts as a pattern interrupt, shifting you from being lost in the thought to being curious about its origin. It is followed by the essential practice of the pause and the conscious breath, which calms your nervous system and creates a space for a wiser response. This is your emergency brake, your immediate path back to the present moment when the mental storm begins to brew. It is the foundational skill upon which all others are built. Next, we explored practical strategies to manage the mind's activity. We looked at compassionate journaling to externalize and untangle our thoughts, and the clever technique of scheduling worry to contain its chaos within firm boundaries. We learned about the notice and name mindfulness practice, which helps you observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them, and the transformative power of replacing your inner critic with a voice of compassionate self-talk. Finally, the 2-minute rule gave us a way to break through paralysis and turn anxious energy into decisive, momentum-building action. This toolkit is your personal guide to navigating the complexities of your mind. Each tool serves a different purpose, and you will learn which ones resonate most deeply with you. The key is not to apply them perfectly, but to apply them consistently. Every time you choose to pause instead of panic, to journal instead of ruminate, or to speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you are carving a new neural pathway in your brain. You are weakening the old, automatic habit of overthinking and strengthening a new, conscious habit of awareness and self-compassion. You are actively rewiring your brain for peace. The path away from overthinking is a winding journey. Progress isn't about never having anxious thoughts, but learning to navigate them, one conscious breath at a time. Each small, kind choice you make, each moment you ground yourself, creates lasting change. The journey has already begun. Just keep walking.